Hey everybody. So this video is going to be about brief history of gaming on Linux. Okay. I won't be touching actual games that exist on Linux for Linux like Super Tux and others that were just created for Linux. I'm talking about the efforts, the big effort that was done by multiple companies trying to migrate AAA games to Linux and all the struggles and all the basically all the process that went behind that for the past we could say like around 15 to 20 years. Okay, so before we get to Steam and the fact that many of these games actually work on Linux now, we're gonna start from the beginning. So in the beginning we had the main one. Okay, before Wine there were a couple others, but just we're gonna target with the ones that actually created the whole effort of gaming on Linux. Okay, and well, gaming and being compatible apps on Windows, being compatible on Windows. So we got Wine. So Wine, we could call it the base of a lot of the efforts that went through uh, the gaming on Linux community. So Wine started way too many years ago. Okay, right now they're in 7.21 on this video. They got this just in case they throw out um, a version every 2 weeks. If you see this like this, that means that this is a stable version, and this too, the 7.21 and 7.20 is the development version. So October 31st, they had the 720, and basically 2 weeks later, they had the 721, and they create a stable version every so often. I don't know if it's every 6 months or once a year or something like that. I can't remember right now, but this is where a lot of the things actually started. They got to a point where they actually created this the app DB, the app database, so people would know what's compatible, fully compatible. It needs a workaround, etc., etc., etc. On when using Wine on Linux. Okay, they even created a ranking system, so anything that was platinum meant that you could execute it. You didn't have to do any workarounds. It just worked. It not only worked, it worked at the same performance level that on Windows. On some cases, like World of Warcraft, actually played you the FPS was better for some reason. But you were able to actually visually see what games were platinum, what games were gold that needed either a workaround or they didn't work properly for everybody. Maybe some depending on the hardware, they had an issue or not. Then you had silver that might work, not it might just fail completely. You have bronze, which is most likely it won't work, and then you have garbage, which is impossible thing to actually work. And if you actually said that it was working, you were just lying. Um, so there were a lot of ranking factors here, a lot of testing. Like if you went to let's go to World of Warcraft here, so you can get an idea. They had a versioning system, so you were able to let me show you. You were able to click on it, and you were able to see. Oh, here it is. So okay, so they got the latest one. Before you were able to select the version of which you want to leave a test. Now it's just the latest one. That's it. But here, like the test results, you can see that okay, yeah, everything's working. They were able to do this. This was not working. I had to do this type of workaround. This is my hardware, etc., etc., etc. Here you can see others. Okay, so basically for this person it didn't work, but for the other ones it did, so on and so forth. So you got Wine with this concept. These are the ones that I maintain. So if somebody throws out um, a test result, I can go here, check it out, test it myself, etc. But here one was helping the idea of using Linux on the desktop. The biggest roadblock I would say on desktop was gaming. Was actually gaming. There were others, but the biggest one was actually gaming. So people were like, okay, no, I'm gonna I could work on Linux, but I'd rather play on Windows. Okay. So Wine was helping in regards to that point, making sure that the concept of being able to play on Linux without being affected or in performance or compatibility or stuff like that was not a factor that you had to think about. It just worked. So they help with that. The other biggest distro, and not because I, I use it, was Ubuntu. Ubuntu was the one that actually promoted the idea of, hey, Linux could be used, and we're talking like in 2004, 2005, uh, that time. You could actually use a Linux distribution on your computer with very little configuration and very little knowledge. They actually did at that time. They were actually giving you a free shipping of their CD of Ubuntu at that time, um, and you were able to install on your computer. And actually, it worked. Most of the time, it actually worked. Before that, you were able to, like in my case, at that time, I don't know if it still exists. I haven't checked, but there was a Linux distribution called Caldera Linux or Open Linux. Um, you had to configure a lot of things on it. So I use that one. I would also use Gen 2. Gen 2 is another one that you gotta well at that time you had to configure a lot. Stage 3 and well anyway. There were a lot of configuration things that you needed to do before you were able to use Linux on the computer. Compared to Windows that you just, you install it and you're done and you don't have to be a geek or a tech savvy person and it just worked. So Ubuntu came with that concept in mind of just installing it similar to Windows. The same as Wine came with the idea of, hey, games will will actually work at some point on Linux without any hustle and any problems at all. Okay, so 15 years later, more or less, and we're at that point. We're at that point where very little games don't work on Linux. Okay, there are multiple ways of getting that thing to work. Um, and I'm not saying 100 compatibility with all the hardware. I'm saying that depending on the hardware that you're using, you might get 100% compatibility there, or you might need to do a workaround or some of the other things. That's why I want to go through this, let's say, history of gaming on Linux with you, so you can understand the struggles. So Wine had that idea. Then on top of Wine, we had Code Weavers. So Code Weavers basically finances or helps the financial aspect of Wine HQ. So they offer their own thing called crossover. So crossover is like a more confirmed, verified, streamlined app where if they say, well, now you can use I don't know, Windows, Office, or something there, you most likely will get it working there. No doubt about it. Obviously, you buy for it. You don't need to configure the whole thing. It works similar to Windows. You install it, and then through it, you can install other apps, and they literally do the whole installation, configuration, optimization, everything for you. The same app. That's where you would buy it here. And that money actually goes to multiple different projects that are behind making your experience of installing a Windows app on Linux uh, super easy to use. Okay, so you have crossover there. Then you have ones that specialize in gaming. So one of the ones that are well, there's Sedega Transgaming, and they were playing on Linux at that time. And playing on Linux is basically it installs your wine for this specific type of game that in a specific wine version that was tested with that game to make sure that it's 100% compatible, including the performance and all that. So it was easy to install the games. Actually, let me see if I have some images here. Oh, okay. Well, okay. So this is good. you're able to see screenshots. Okay, yeah, here's the thing working, whatnot. Okay, and how many people have used this, the one version that's used for this specific one, and so on and so forth. Okay, so play on Linux, instead of you using wine to go to the console, install things, type here, type there, go to this directory, change permissions, etc., etc., etc. You just install one app similar to crossover here, from Codeweavers, and you got the game working. Okay. They grew a lot. I can see this. Like the last time. Wow. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. So they grew a lot. Um, I'm happy for that. Then you had Lutris. So Lutris is, let's put it like this. It's like the competition of playing on Linux. It's the same thing. They have a similar mindset there, and it's, I mean, between playing on Linux, doing it on Wine, Crossover, and Lutris, they all, the end game here is they all try to make it easy for you to install a game, or focus on a game, or at least if the last two here. So here we can go to the games section on Lutris, and you can see, well, here are the the games that we've tested so far, and if they're working or not working. Click on this baby here. Um, oh, Libre Retro is like an arcade library there. That helps you play Super Nintendo, Nintendo, Sega, etc., etc. Like a bunch of Neo Geo, all that. But you can see that it showcases. Holy mother, that's a lot of game there. Okay, well, you get my point. There's gonna be way too many there, so I'm not gonna be. But it offers you an alternative to installing games on Linux. Okay. And even recommends some of the distros that you can use for it. Okay. So that's another one. Vineyard was a really old one. I don't know if they're still alive, but Vineyard was another one that was more or less doing the same thing. Screenshots here. Yeah, it's very old. I think they died. Yeah, they died. Yeah, for sure. So here you get an idea on what was there before. So you were able to select the configuration, the game, the thing, pam pam pam, and you had your um, game working. At least with that one. Scum VM. Okay, it was for anybody that actually knows what this is. That means that you already know about King's Quest, Quest for Glory, Monkey Island, and a bunch of other awesome, awesome, very addicting games. Okay, so Scum, I use Scum a lot. I'm a Scum. And you can see the list of compatibility there. Oh, interactive. Oh, dude, interactive. Sierra, yeah, Roberta Williams and all that. So I loved all these games. Like I was raised with these games. So it's you can play those old games on your PC, on your Linux computer using Scum there. So those, you can see that the alternatives or the options of being able to play specific games on Linux started to grow, enhance, more options for, and the possibilities of being able to play those games on Linux was there. Then this is very old stuff. I'm just mentioning it here because this was there was a company, Trans Gaming. They got bought by I forgot who, Nvidia or somebody like that. But Sedega at that point, if I can remember, it was version 4 or version 5, something like that. They were able to do stuff that was literally at that moment was impossible for one to do. Like you were able to play seamlessly specific games without any issues at all, at all. So that actually, I mean, they sold this. They sold the Sedega thing there, and but it was frowned upon by a lot of the community because it was a lot of effort and they were taking advantage of, put it like that, the situation. Okay, so not a lot of people actually use Sedega from Transgaming for that. They had other alternatives, and they wanted to help the other alternatives because of the way of thinking. Okay, then you have basically the opposite of Sedega here. You got GOG, so um, good old games basically. And these people rock. Okay, these people rock, and they offer you a lot of things here, especially for Linux users, but Windows too, and everybody there. Um, so these people actually helped in streamlining the way that you would get the games um, before Steam grew on Linux. Okay, and this actually kicked in like the store front of being able to get some Linux and also getting the games and that and the games not disappearing later on, like getting deleted or removed by the company or not sold anymore, or you having no access to them later because they disable the online server or whatnot. So GOG is is one of the best. I mostly use them for the old games. And I have a bunch of games with them, but this is another alternative for you to get games that can be compatible with Linux. Pearl Interactive. Actually, if we click here, I, I basically got all their games. Not because I wanted all their games, but well, some of them I did. But because of what they were doing. They were doing something that at that point didn't exist yet. So they were the first ones to actually start migrating AAA games to Linux. Like this was not one of the first ones that I played, but this one, XCOM, Hitman, it opened the possibility and the idea of, oh my God, we can play AAA games on Linux. Okay, I actually got all the Pearl games from there. I haven't played this one. Uh, not that one, not that one. I haven't played like half of them. I just bought them because I wanted to support this company of of what they were doing. Okay, so here's another alternative. You can actually get some of these games directly from them, so they get more of the commission, or you can get it from Steam if you want to. Um, Other alternatives could be, VirtualBox if you wanted to use your own Windows there. Obviously, for old games that might not be compatible with Linux, but you want to emulate Windows, and you can install them there. Okay. Up to that point, that's what the old, well, the current too, but the old ways of doing it were there. Okay. Then Steam came out with their version of Proton, okay, which is like a layer that basically is like a middleman that makes sure that games that are for DirectX, whichever, okay, 9, 10, 11, um, are can work on Linux. And in the beginning, obviously, there were not that many that were compatible, but I mean, you can see here the stats basically they've been growing. Okay, these stats are just for the deck, but if we actually go here, you can see that Payday, like somebody mentioned about the Payday, it's runs natively on Linux, so there's no they have a Linux version basically. And you can see this one here, pretty much it's working there very very well, and we can keep on going. We can keep on going. We're gonna be testing this one out on the channel very soon. But I can click here and you can see, okay, let me see what this person. So if you see this symbol, they're using deck. Okay. If they don't have it, then they were using the, what do you call it, the desktop version. Okay. So normally I look for the ones that are tested the thing on their own computer, and you can see some of the comments about how they made it to work or what workarounds they did for sound, for video, for starting the game, etc., etc., etc. Okay. There are also other alternative to Proton or Proton-based alternative like Glorious Egg Roll. which is this one, Proton G, and they basically did a lot of the I would say the tuning Proton for specific type of games. Okay, the same as Wine with an alternative that came about called Wine Staging. There's Wine Staging. What they did was they basically pushed. This was just a solution to a bigger problem where there were a lot of pull requests, meaning updates for specific games, specific behaviors of Windows layers for Wine that were not getting included in the official one. So Wine Staging came about, and let me see if we can actually look for it. Wine Staging. Oops. Well, let me see. There was a yeah, Wine Staging. Let me see if the page is still there. They had like a page where they would say, well, compared to the official one, this is the amount of um, updates that we have compared to the official one. So in the beginning, they had like 800 updates that the official one didn't have that would affect your gaming experience or make it better. And then at some point, Wine and the Wine Staging crew they got together and they're like, you know what? Let's merge efforts because we're both trying to do the same thing. We're trying to help the community build an ecosystem where you are able to use Windows apps on Linux or games without bottleneck, performance issue, etc., etc., etc. So that's it's the same concept of ProtonDB versus Proton GE. So here's another alternative, okay, of and the current biggest one, which is Proton DB. And that sums up to that point the story of how gaming came about on Linux in around 15 years, okay, of time. There was a lot of effort, a lot of changes went there, even things included into the actual kernel that Wine needed and Proton needed, meaning Valve, Steam, all that, to make specific things actually work and perform better. Actually, because of this, there was a there were there was better performance at the graphics level with the kernel. Then we have the idea of new technologies being applied on Linux. So here, and I'm showing you this list because some of these games, I do have them. I have not tested them yet, but they have ray tracing there, DLSS, okay? And we'll be testing some of these games out on Linux to see how they behave. So we're in the bleeding edge part of testing the new grounds of what's compatible, what technologies, gaming technologies are compatible on Linux. Okay, so we got this puppy here. In regards to go places that you can go to tune up your Proton um, configuration or your gaming experience with Wine or others, we got if you're an Ubuntu user, we got Ask Ubuntu, askubuntu.com. And if you're like, for example, you type Wine um, here's how to install. Like if you sort it by score, how to install and configure Wine. And I made this one to make it easy for you to understand how you can install it. Let when I say easy, I mean more or less because obviously people will assume that you can just double click and you're done. But if you follow through the steps, you have that baby done there. A lot of people don't know that they gotta do this step because Wine tricks, and actually I'm gonna do it here. So when you when you install Wine, you can run it like that, Wine config. It might need to install a couple of things there. Let's install that puppy. Okay. And then we have the Wine configuration so that when you try to execute a Wine application, like literally double click on it or right click and run or something, then you can say, well, I want that application to actually run on Windows 10. They don't have Windows 11 yet here. Windows 10, 8.1, whatever you want. Okay, the graphics, the the display size, the resolution there, etc., etc., the audio, everything. Okay, everything that you wanna do there. But that's for the, let's say, the base configuration. For the actual um, configuration of DirectX and tools that you would expect on a Windows environment, you got Winetricks. Okay, you got Winetricks. So on Winetricks, let's run that baby. Yeah, sure. And here's why Winetricks is important. When you install Wine and you specify, well, I want to use Windows 10. Windows 10 comes with specific libraries for it. That's why you need this, because you need to install many of the libraries that come with that default Windows version. So when an app tries to install it, it's going to assume that those libraries, DLL, or DirectX or whatnot, it's already installed there because you're using that specific Windows version. So Windows 10 might have all this installed already, and the .NET, I don't know, some version there already installing. So you need to install it through here. Okay, basically making sure that the environment when the app is about to get installed doesn't crash, doesn't the app doesn't assume that you're the thing is gonna auto install something missing. No, you're basically making it easier for the app to actually work. So sometimes you do have to, like all this, see, you do need to install some of these things before you actually install the app that you wanted to. Okay, like you can visual, you know, Visual C versions specifically there. Sometimes a lot of people, oh my god, like it gave me an error because of this one. Just install this package and you're done. Oh, it gave me this other error. Just install that package and you're done. You solve your issues like that. Okay, that part is very important. So one ask Ubuntu, at least for the Ubuntu part. For me, it's very important because the community here is very large. It's not the only one, but it's very large. And if you actually go to Stack Exchange, and you click on all sites, you can see that Ubuntu, Ask Ubuntu is, well, here's the third one, okay, by traffic. That's how big it is, okay, and by, I don't know, like questions or something, it's still there. Uh, by users, it's the third one. Wow, questions per day, okay. So we got, it's very large, the community there. It's very helpful. It doesn't behave so much as Stack Overflow, as you know that if you ask a good question but it sounds not, it doesn't go according to the rules there, you might get, you might get the question deleted or something like that. So you know what I mean. You know what happens in Stack Overflow. But when Ask Ubuntu, it's not at that level, but at least there's a lot of questions. Like if you type, I don't know, Nvidia 4090, just making sure. Okay, so yeah, you can see um, things related to it. You can see, oh, OBS, so if you're using NVENC or AMD encoders, make sure you use this and that, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you got to make sure that the questions are around the time. For example, I just saw something here, like here, 2014. You're not gonna be using the answer here at all. This is way too old, and it might the answers might actually break your system. Okay, so you gotta make sure that you look for more relevant, up to date answers regarding your specific problem. But this is one source where you can get ideas. Another one that I was using was Slashdot, but Slashdot became like a mixed bag here of things in regards to Linux related or gaming related stuff on Linux. So now the main tool that I use is Phoronix, the main one. And obviously because I'm in Ubuntu, I use Oh My God Ubuntu. Okay, so on Phoronix, I get my fair share of stuff. Like here's Bench my distro that I was searching for somebody, and you can see. Let me see if there's something more relevant here. Intel's like for example, I use Ubuntu. Okay, I use Ubuntu. But when and I use Ubuntu because it's a very general or generic distro that does a lot of things. It's not optimized for specific hardware. It tries to is very similar to other ones. Okay, with the exception of ones like Intel's Clear Linux there, because you can see that the performance of Clear Linux is way too high. So this is a good factor for you to measure um, the performance of a distro here on for Linux. Do know that 2004, actually the 2204 was, I mean, for me it wasn't good. I had a lot of lag and issues with it. But this one, the current one, 2210, was pretty good. But here you can see benchmarks about gaming and other factors, and then you can, holy mother, look at that. Okay, there should be a geometric means for all that. Okay, there we go. So here you can see that, in general, Clear Linux beat everybody, obviously, because it's an Intel hardware with an Intel based distribution. But then you have others. Pam, 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 pam. And you got the Ubuntu almost at the end. Even though you can see how it runs on my computer. So if I use another distro, it might run much better. Just that I'm used to Debian-like distributions, and they actually solve a lot of the issues. I don't have to compile or build apps or go to a store and then a store doesn't have a version for my specific distro. It doesn't work. It's that's why I was saying the whole general thing. Like if you go to many places, they have they have Windows, they have Mac, and then they literally say Ubuntu. Okay, stuff like that. So that's that compatibility level. It helps me in time related cases. Oh my God, Ubuntu is another one that gives me a lot of great feedback. This is Joey's site. Excellent place for you to play around with Ubuntu, make it faster, learn about new technologies that came out, etc., etc., etc. Now, there's another great one, Arch Linux, in regards to gaming documentation. Okay, this, even though it's not Ubuntu, actually come here a lot because they have great documentation. Well, Arch Linux and Gen 2, they both have great documentation about optimizations that you can do on the Linux kernel in general. That it's not even just for them; it's for everybody. So another great place to come. They have a lot of also information here. Here you can see a lot that I don't even know about, like this couple here. I don't know what that is. But you get a lot of information and ideas about how you can solve specific problems or configure your game in a specific way so it performs better. Okay. Another one great is a Reddit gaming on Linux. Gaming on Linux here. They have great information about um, pretty much everything about Linux in gaming there. There are other sources that I've used, like Linux config, best Linux distro for gaming. You can see several here. Obviously, uh, yeah, it's a cliche here mentioning Ubuntu, but it's the biggest one there. Then you have other ones that you can test around. I stopped distro hopping or distro jumping a long time ago. I've tested probably around 50 different ones before I stopped jumping and just ended up on Ubuntu for many reasons, but just saving saving up the hassle of just going back and forth and stuff like that. But here are a lot of them that you can get an idea about. Here's Pop OS from System 76. Great one too. Great one too. Even though they're like a Pop OS is an operating system for STEM, and yeah, they're using it for gaming a lot. So so it's good for a lot of things, but it's very friendly, and you can configure it really fast there. Another one it's FOSS. So here you can see information about, well, updated um, not too long ago. So that's good. This is very good. So here you can see some information about gaming on Linux and stuff about, well, multiple platforms, Steam, Google Games, and other stuff here. Like this one. I didn't know about this one. You can always learn about new um, ways of installing games, making them compatible, etc., etc. Wow, there's a lot of them here. So this was just a brief history of the efforts done on the Linux community to make gaming on Linux possible, or to get it to the point that we are right now, and to make it easy for you to install it, play it, and not lose it, and just or having to dual boot between Windows and Linux. Do note that Proton, um, let me go here. They did make, I think they actually answered this here. So there's a DXVX version 2 that came out a while back. This one. Okay, so I actually asked, okay, will the 705 include the XVX VK 2.0? And they say no, because that actually changes a lot of things. But this one is going to be a game changer, completely game changer, especially for games that use DirectX 10 and 11, and including some of the things on 12. So a complete game changer here in regards to compatibility and performance. So stay tuned for, I'm guessing Proton 8 or 10 or something, when they actually push this to the Steam environment. So hope you like this video. Hope the video helped you learn more about the history, the efforts, who's doing what, how they all got together. Basically, they're all actually helping each other. It's part of the Linux community there. And yeah, and share the video if you like, and somebody wants to learn about the 15 years of history in one single video. So big hugs and think positive to everybody.